Hey everybody, welcome to G4G here on YouTube. Today we're going to go ahead and take a deep dive at a character infamous in Marvel Avengers Alliance past, compared to her modern iterations, and see how she's progressed as Tony Stark's executive assistant, Virginia Pepper Potts. So, on a warm spring day back in May of 2013, within the first year or so of the game being live, the Special Operations Extremis came out. It began on May 1st and ended on May 16th for the PC version of it, and for the iOS version, it started on June of 2013 and ended on June of 2014. No, okay, I'm sorry. I was reading these wrong. They were stacked on each other. So it began May of 2013 and ended in June of 2013 on the Facebook version, and for iOS it was almost a full year behind, running from May 16 to June 10th. Of course, you don't see an Android version listed here because the Android version was a hot pile of shit. And once again, I gotta ask you people, everybody that's like, can we have Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux on the Android operating system? I wonder where you people were when the game was live back in that time, and nobody played it on Android because it was garbage, and now everybody wants to play it on Android. I'm in a reality after the Thanos snap. I honestly think I'm in the Soul Gem, seeing the amount of people going, could we have it on mobile? God, you people kill me. So, in the spec ops that gave us Rescue, we also had the Titanium RPG. I definitely remember that one because I had it. It was an opportunity exploiter, and it did staggered, which means it actually did a debuff that was opportunistic. Staggered is very, very handy. We got the cool freezer, chilled icing up, which increased defense, which was pretty good for tanking at the time. By building up defense, it was removed by fire attacks. We had the survivalist, which was the knife that coolly removes buffs, does cornered and off balance. It only removed a single beneficial status, but that of course was pretty handy. It was very good for when somebody taunted. We had the repulsor fist and the deflector fist. This is the one that did shield slam. Ironically, could be used against rescue. I believe the deflector fist was the full version of it. Yeah, so the deflector fist causes a shield when you use it, aside from doing shield slam. We had the ferric blade and the ferric shield. I remember these. Exploits magnetism, that actually works with not only Magneto but Rescue herself. We had the ferric shield, which exploits magnetism. Chance to get a random buff when attacked, cause dizzy. This was a very interesting piece of gear. I also remember this one. I had it. And we had the set, which was the Stark Tet set. We had the Ram's Horn, which is interesting. This was the bleeding and burning. I definitely remember this one, and I remembered thinking that the starting cooldown was a little odd because it wasn't that powerful. It did hit everybody, but it was only a single stack of bleeding, a single stack of burning. It wasn't the best thing in the world, and the Stark Tech set was not considered very good. However, the Second Amendment was the real star of this one. 60% chance to stun. Starting cooldown is removed if the laser cutter is equipped. Catastrophic attack that applies weakened and dizzy. This was essentially like Pepsi's giant ultimate over here. The laser cutter did see some use in PvP. It was stealthy, and the cooldown was removed if you had the Stark Resilient. It does shield breaker and melt armor to all enemies, which was very, very good against Rescue herself. Always crits against burning targets. So that's what the set was. Not one of the best sets in Marvel Avengers Alliance history, but we're here to talk about your girl, Rescue, not about the gear, but we need to do a nod to the actual spec ops that she came from. She had a high health pool, she had high stamina, very low attack, high defense, shit accuracy, high evasion, which means if you were to do the PKB method, which was to 5-bar the health, 5-bar attack, 5-bar accuracy, and then pick either defense or evasion, you're almost at a bit of a paradox for the PKB method. The attack would require a lot of work. It's almost better to forego the attack and just take her attack points and put her in defense and evasion. So that leaves you with accuracy, the ability, so you would 5-bar health, you would 5-bar accuracy as per PKB method. You could skip attack and go to defense and evasion both. She was also available for gold at several points, and then eventually just command points. She was a flyer. I like how it says carries metal. Yes, like, duh. She had Panacea response. All allies remove a harmful status effect at the beginning of their turn, but it will not remove the exhausted or stun. Virginia, she had an explosion. She almost died. She was infused with cybernetic implants that allow her to interface her own variant of the Iron Man armor. Refusing to become a living weapon, she instead focused on defensive systems, giving her incredible search and rescue abilities. She had the ability of flyby attack, which did shield slam, which is good for her to counter herself. She did winded, which shuts down scrappers. She had off balance, which shuts down infiltrators. Any class that can shut down its opposing strong class is good, and that's something Rescue did well, and especially infiltrators. There was probably no class out there that was as strong as an infiltrator was against a tactician. A blaster against the bruisers, fairly strong, but healing can negate that. Pissing off an infiltrator as a tactician was asking for a world of hurt, which you certainly saw during the Emma Frost pre-firing psychic tap era that went on over there. She gets afterburners, so it would give her an extra turn. If she's hitting a blaster, she would have went 3 times in a round. She had Protector Protocol, which had a 1-round cooldown, so what you would often do is you would hit flyby attack and then go to Protector Protocol. Magnetic Attraction protects allies from single target and area attacks, applies magnetize to attackers. Preemptively creates a repelling force field before the enemy attack, so she shields herself before the attack comes in. She had Reconstruction Matrix on a 3-round cooldown, which did, I'm not getting the right tooltip over there. There it is. Shield effects absorbs incoming damage, and it restores health over time. And then she had Status Reset, which was a quick action where all enemies get their buffs removed and all of the teammates, more on that in a moment, get their debuffs removed. She removed buffs from the enemies. She removed debuffs from her own team if she had hard reset, which, to be honest, that is a very, very, very strong ISO for her. If we were to look at possible A ISOs for her, if you look at melee and we come down past the weapons, you have things like Pulverize, which does wide open, which is very good. Knocking, which is a chance at a stun. Increased chance to crit, increased chance to hit on focused attack. Really, with that ISO, you don't even have to build her accuracy up more. So you could have dumped even more into defense and evasion, and maybe even some into stamina if you wanted. Increased damage, and dependable means that action can't get locked out, which means she will always be able to do it, so somebody like Chase Stein would not be able to shut her down. It's also energy, which means something like the Rectifier would have been able to heal her. Imagine that. Imagine the Rectifier being able to heal somebody who can take that action every single round and give a heal to somebody who has self-replicating shields, can remove debuffs from herself as a base kit, and also heal herself. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So, let's see. Chance to apply Dark Void. That's a weird one. Ionizing Discharge. Equipped energy attack applies radiation exposure, dealing damage each turn, increasing energy damage taken. So you can mount an offensive rescue with something like that. Suppression. Equipped energy attack applies a shield. Oh my god. More shields for rescue. Charged attacks, blah blah blah. Isn't that fucking incredible? How nasty is that for a tank where you could put a shield generating ability on her level 1 that she could do every single turn and do at least twice, unless you wanted to do it one and then one of her other abilities. Buffs. I do believe there was an ISO set that says every buff could be a heal. So she could restore stamina to everybody on that one. There was Epiphany. There it is. Blessed. Applies combat awareness. And the dependable means it can't get locked out. She could do it here too. So she could have 2 moves that gives her entire team stamina back if you wanted to. Tech. I don't think Tech had any real interesting AISOs. She also had no personal E-ISOs. Perhaps if Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux ever gets around to doing Endgame, we might invent one. Equip Tech does tech upgrade. Tech attacks do more damage. She doesn't have a tech attack. It's not going to help. Equip Tech also applies obsolete tech. It's not an attack buff, so that doesn't do anything. So yeah, like I said, nothing tech related would have been good for her there. And then tech debuff buff. In this one, you would probably want to go more for the debuff ones, since she already has 2 buffs. And you could have gone with dependable, that means that it can't locked out. Equip debuff action implies endemic, increases the cooldown of an action on use. That's good. Straining, that was very good late game. There was definitely a lot of stamina screwing in late PvP. Lethal, equip debuff applies despair. And leeching, equip debuff. Imagine lethal on that. Imagine putting out despair on status reset. That's awful. If Rescue had come out in her release state in late game Marvel Avengers Alliance, she would have been obnoxious as hell. She was obnoxious when she was released, but if she came out in the end of Marvel Avengers Alliance, and she came out when these ISOs were popular, and she came out in her semi-broken release state, she would have been god tier for PvP. So if we look down in the comments over here, you'll see that her passive went down to only a 70% chance for a little while, but then it was brought back up to 100. You get people talking about how it would be cool if she was brought back to her old power about a year after she was out. One guy was like, no, she needs to stay where she is. She was too broken. And somebody was like, no, she's not broken. And this guy goes on a long post over here about she used to have bigger shields, bigger heals. She was essentially like Invisible Woman's ISO. Panacea response was at 100% when symbiotes were only at 75. She was a massive meta changer at the time, and she absolutely delayed the hell out of end season PvP. If you put her with like Invisible Woman with that air pressure ISO, she wasn't designed to make you rage quit because you were never going to get ahead. She was designed to delay your attack for so long that that person's defensive team couldn't get into a lot of defenses during the last weekend of PvP. That is where she was mostly used. She saw active PvP participation for quite a while, and then she was sort of relegated to like a closer in baseball, where she would just show up to shut everything down for a couple of innings. If we look at the PKB method of ISOing her, we want to look at a couple things over here. When you look at Rescue, there are two strong impulses you kind of want to avoid. The first is, hey, she's got no attack. We need to build that trap. There is no need to build her attack that much, as she does most of her damage by invalidating the enemy. Thereby, PKB is saying she actually invalidates his own style. Now, I know a lot of you anti-PKB people are going to cheer at this point. I never had any problems using the PKB method for ISOing my character, so I'm not going to talk shit about him. No matter how much attack you strap on her, she isn't going to be a finisher or a come from behind kind of attacker. I would say with some of the late game ISOs that may have been more plausible. The second impulse is to avoid is she doesn't attack, let's go 8 Spry Trap. She has an attack, it applies some fairly important debuffs, and debuffs you don't apply if you don't hit with. So he's saying here, accuracy, accuracy, accuracy. So Rescue gets the inverted build. Instead of maxing out attack and accuracy in the better 2 defensive skills, she gets maxed out defense, near maxed out evasion, 5-bar accuracy, ton of health. That is exactly what I said he was going to say without even looking at it. Collectively, this build should give her consistency with her accuracy-dependent moves, and you can add your opponent to the chorus of people who want to nerf the least defensively dangerous hero. You could want a nerf for somebody that isn't about beating the shit out of you. You could want a nerf about somebody who is just making combat ridiculously boring and tedious and tiring and delays your team. So here she was in Marvel Avengers Alliance. Of course, she could use Tactician ISOs. Her actions are unfortunately locked out. They're just not working in the Marvel Avengers Alliance Alpha 4 build right now. Excuse me, this is Alpha 5, which is not available for release yet. This is not a bug just on her, because if we look at anybody, it's the exact same thing. It's just the coding of the game right now. So, you know, magnetized could mean she would work well with some of the magnetized gear with the agent, could work well with Magneto. And you can see this is her uniform. She has sort of Iron Man-ish shoulders up there, like the Mark 42. And I wonder, yeah, I don't think, yeah, we can't see the uniforms yet on this, because there are no uniforms, it's base characters. So, she was not one that people ever really liked to level through missions and everything, because she was tough. I mean, she was a tough sell. I think I may do a video at some point of the hardest to level through combat people, or the most annoying combat leveling people, because let me tell you, this page has got 2 of them, if not 3. And I'll spoil future videos and say Rescue is definitely one of them, and Wonder Man. God, Wonder Man was such a piece of shit to level through combat in the beginning. He didn't hit strong enough. He just, I mean, I know he's supposed to be Marvel's, well, in some way, he's supposed to be Marvel's Superman. Some people say it's Hyperion, but also it's been Wonder Man. Just not a fun character to level in combat, and neither was Constrictor. So honestly, this page has got about 3 people. Thunder was fun, especially when she got her ISOs later. Juggernaut, you can't complain about Juggernaut or Red Hulk or Shitterstar or Union Jack. I mean, Union Jack is fun. He was an absolute blast to play, especially once he started getting his abilities unlocked. But like Rescue, tough. You needed to bring people who did all the work for her and carried her through it. So the reason why we're doing this video is she's everywhere now. She is in Marvel Future Fight, and she is in Marvel Strike Force. So first, let's take a look at her in Marvel Future Fight and see how she is represented. Pepper Potts is the CEO of Stark Industries, as well as one of Tony's most trusted and beloved allies. She dons her own high-tech suit and takes to the skies as the armored hero Rescue. So immediately they're not hyping up the defensive nature of her. She's a machine. She's listed as a machine, and she has the leadership of dealing extra damage to supervillains. And those are her strikers. So, looking at her abilities, tracking missile, energy damage, cooldown 6 seconds. Boost up, applies to enemies a stun and energy damage. Electric force field, applies to enemies a stun, applies to herself 5% increase of recovery rate, summon an illusion with summoner stats, guards against 5 hits, super armor all defenses, and energy damage. Repulsor coils, stun again, applies to self, an increase in all attacks, all speeds, and critical rates. She removes incapacitation. And hypercharge, applies to self, super armor, all defenses. She does stuns, and immunity to damage. So she has a really even blend over here of what's going on. She has a lot of self-buffing with super armor and guarding against 5 hits and a pretty big chance in immunity over there. I'm surprised that it only stays at 50. Usually for somebody like this it goes to 100, but okay. And she's got a lot of stuns, so she does seem to be considerably more offensive than Marvel Avengers Alliance. Life support system. When her hit points are below 99%, all speeds increase, and she begins a hit point recovery, which is somewhat similar to Wolverine in terms of the hit point recovery. Repulsor Tech, 20% increase to all attacks and defenses of summoned characters, an increase to energy attack, increases skill damage. And as a leader, when hit points are below 30%, they create a shield for 20%. So, she is a good leader for newbies. And she, right now, is a daily sub in Marvel Future Fight over here. You have to have the sub to get her. I've dumped 2 days of sub into her, which is why she is currently a 2-star for me. And let's take a look at her skills. Really one of the best things you could have done in Marvel Avengers Alliance to deal with Rescue when you had to deal with her. You needed to stun her, or you needed to exhaust her so that she couldn't do everything in one round like she does. So, as you can see right there, that level 1 is pretty strong. And then that looks very, very similar to how she acted in the movies. Her auto attacks look straight out of Endgame. Here's her level 2. It's a flyby attack into the stun. You can see, you know, the 1 is just a standard attack. The 2 is the stun and energy damage. Here's her 3, which is the stun, the recovery rate, the clones, the guarding against 5 hits. Big AoE force field. Kind of Super Saiyan there. Here's her 4, which is a stun and then a self buff. Again, pretty aggressive looking. Not too sure what's with the going up for the slam dunk animation there, but okay, we'll go with it. And here's her 5. God damn. Holy shit, her 5 is nice. Oh, wow. That's like what Thanos did on Titan. That is Thanos pulling down a moon. Yeah, so that's not Daddy's little defensive girl anymore. That's rough. Let's actually look at her on the team page, because when you do, it often gives you some ideas of skill rotation. So let's look at Wolverine for a moment here and see what his regeneration rate is like. generating 5%. So rescue was 3%. He's 5. So she's a little less hardy than Wolverine. I mean, basically, like we all know, Wolverine in this game's fairly invincible. You need a really good blaster to take care of him. Like Phoenix can do it, but there's occasionally times where he will get the drop on Phoenix. So, according to the game, characters summoned with the electric force field will launch additional attacks when using repulsor coil or hypercharge. So what they're saying is to do a 3 first and then go into a 4-5. She is a blaster, which means she has strength against combat. Custom gear for her, a lot of people are still working that out. Immune to guard break might be good. A recovery rate recovery rate obelisk might be good. As for an ISO set, maybe something defensive. And maybe go for like an attack proc on the obelisk over there. But yeah, there she is, quite trimmed down from the Marvel Avengers Alliance look, and very, very snappy looking suit. Although I sort of want a little bit more out of the helmet. I'm not too sure what I want. I feel like it needs some adornment over there, but yeah, she's going to be pretty interesting. People are still trying to figure out what role she's going to be in over here. You can use rank up tickets to her. I can instantly rank her up to 6 if I want to. And as for mastery, I can use tickets there too. And her bios, as we said, come from the daily subscription. So we're going to go and move over to BlueStacks and look at her in Marvel Strike Force. As that's loading up, let's return to her page over here on the wiki and take a look at what people were saying about her back then. I wouldn't say powerful, but annoying to deal with. In her early release, she was literally the perfect support hero. During the extreme spec ops, people cried for a nerf because of the overprotectiveness, especially her old level 6. So her old level 6 was the big, big heal on Reconstruction Matrix. Would anybody like to see her in a heroic battle with Rhodes and Stark against Crimson Dynamo, Titanium, and Whiplash? That could have been interesting. She really needs a good EISO to be better. Again, this person's idea. Responsive EISO, responsive, okay. Responsive healing pin. So your response now has a 100% chance to trigger, reduces damage taken from most damage. So this got fixed, negating that part of it, but reducing damage from dots, that could have helped Rescue continue to be back the way she was, because a dot would take care of her. When and if restore it, people quit over Rescue despite there being books worth of commentary in this wiki. How to defeat her, even using basic household items you find in any pantry. Disappointing that the health of the game depends on the motivation of the gimme generator. So Pot Kettle Black was not necessarily known for pulling his punches, but he has a point. I mean, she was only threatening because she was a brick wall. He's responding to, this is one of the reasons why Rescue is hated by the majority of fans, and a good reason a number quit. I almost did because of that. Like, PKB has a point over here. It's a dick way of saying it, but if you're like quitting over a character, you were not destined to continue playing MAA, because let's just say, if I could go back in time and do a time heist and tell these people in 2014 and 2015 that there's a lot more coming down the pipe that's worse than Rescue, yeah, people would be very, very, very surprised. I just recently got her to 14. I would give her pulverize for wide open or ionizing discharge for radiation exposure. It depends. If you're putting her with a melee attacker, go pulverize. If not, put ionizing for the dot. Yeah, so this is a good question, and this is very good advice. Guys, I need help because I can't seem to find rescues. ISO and 266, Epic Boss Roulette. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised that she never did get an ISO, but maybe they were, oof, we got crushed, afraid at the time that it would restore her to too much prominence. Maybe they just couldn't figure out a good ISO for her. But hey, as we open some rescue shards over here and I try to recruit her, let's think what would have been a good ISO for her. Maybe something that would have set her to be immune to exhausted. Actually, you know, I like the one about reduced damage from dots, because that restores her to being a very, very good tank. And it means she could also be a decent tank back in, like, the Pesty era. Because in around spec up... Whoa, nice. 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 That would be pretty much an instant rescue recruit right there. Even if I didn't get any other orbs. I just needed, like, 2 orbs if I'm going to get a 40. Hey, this is looking pretty good. Hey, that's pretty good. So let's see how she's represented in Marvel Strike Force, which I haven't looked at yet. So here's the thing, guys. If you're a Marvel Strike Force player, tell me if you agree with this. Do you not find Marvel Strike Force to be far, far more greedy than Marvel Avengers Alliance? It was like Marvel Avengers Alliance was like once a month you had the gold sale. Okay, maybe a set would go on sale. It would last a couple weeks. Like, I feel like Marvel Avengers Alliance put you in the spot to buy stuff at the speed of a small country brook. A nice babbling stream that goes under a covered bridge somewhere in the countryside. It's got flow, but it has a pleasant sound to it. Like a white noise app. Marvel Strike Force just comes in like fucking Tommy the Tank Engine theme song. Straight for your wallet. Just... It's just so much money it wants to take from you. And a lot of them are very, very tempting offers. Like, they're just tempting, but... An armored hero who protects allies with her barrier and enhances power armor allies' attacks. So power armors are her and Iron Man and War Machine, by the way. She's hero, global, tech, support, and she is a power armor, which is a new classification. Sonic Repulsor. Attack the primary target for damage, 50% chance to apply a slow. So first, let me give her a little bit of that daily love here for the leveling. I think... Okay, this is... she's creepy in this. I think her Marvel Future Fight look is way better than this. That looks... That is the vacant stare of an android that has seen stuff. That is the stare of a, like, Jocasta that has watched you masturbate to porn on RedTube for the last week straight. That is a... That person is dead inside with that look. Man, don't like... Yeah, her Marvel Future Fight look is way better than this. This is... That's nightmare fuel right there. Wow. Scary. Okay. So, once you get her to level 2, she'll do 100% damage. Chance to hit an adjacent target for 60% of the damage. 50% chance to apply the slow to each target. You bump up the damages. You bump up the damages. Pump up the volume. Pump up the volume. Dance. Level 3, she always applies the slow, so you would at least want to get that. So, relatively offensive, but in that kind of defensive way. Tech Shield. Barrier all allies for 500 plus 5% of the character's max health. 50% chance to apply regeneration to all allies. In a war, 50% chance to apply 2 regeneration to all allies instead. Increasing 5% of this character's max health as a barrier. Barrier always apply the regeneration. Okay. So her level 7's not that great. The level 5 is very good. And she's another one of these characters that's kind of designed for war. Firewall. Clear 1 negative effect from self and allies. In a war, apply immunity. God, that's strong. That is so strong. The only other person who has that is Juggernaut. Wow. Apply offense up to self and power armor allies. Clear a negative effect. In war, apply immunity for 2 turns. It drops it to 6 energy from 7. Clear 1 additional start with 3 ability energy. Clear 1 additional negative effect. Offense up. Now lasts for 2 turns. Now costs 5 ability energy. Clear. This one would be worth an orange. Clearing all negative effects on top of all of this. Absolutely. Definitely worth an orange on Firewall. Stark upgrade. In war. On spawn. Barrier power armor allies. Gain max health. Power armor allies gain max health. In a war, when an ally drops below 50%, max health up, chance to barrier, power armors, and 500 barrier in a war. Yeah, so if you RNG her, it's definitely going to be her Firewall. Her Firewall definitely seems, even outside of a war, to be 100% worth it. So I would have to say, in looking at the 3 different versions of Rescue over here, we have the very, very defensive Marvel Avengers Alliance version that was not always fun to play. In PvP, she could have been interesting, but in PvE, this was a boring character to level. Just wasn't fun. Not a bad look to her. I think it holds up. I think she also had the most interesting helmet in this game compared to, well, you can't see it, but the thumbnail over there, you can see it a little bit better. That's not a bad look. I would rank that in the top 2. This is gotta be the lowest. This is absolutely 3rd place over here. That is the vacant stare of somebody who just wants to get the hell out of that suit. I feel my soul draining from my body as I stare into those cold and lifeless eyes of the Marvel Strike Force Rescue. Supposedly she's also hitting Puzzle Quest now. I don't play Puzzle Quest, so I can't really comment on it. I think it's very close to the Marvel Future Fight look to her. That being said, I would say the Marvel Future Fight version of her is probably going to be the most fun version of her to play in all of the games. It seems like she could potentially be a little bit meta in there a little bit. She's got that passive recovery. She's probably going to be quite durable. And she seems fun with stuns and everything. So whether or not she becomes a world boss killer or ABX powerhouse, hard to say. Blaster is so tough in there, and I mean, if you're gonna pick Blaster female, you're obviously gonna go with Sharog over anybody in Blaster female. But when you're looking at Blaster male and female, Cable is pretty much the way to go. Maybe Strife. So I don't think Rescue is gonna be super top tier over there. But yeah, I need to look away from this. I'm losing so much of my soul right now. I'm probably going to be dead tomorrow. You're going to find me in some corner of my house like the Ring. I'm just going to be all like scrunched up in a corner, drained of all my bodily fluids with my mouth halfway open to my chest and my eyes caved in because I stared at Rescue in Marvel Strike Force for more than 5 seconds. So there you go, guys. There is the history of Rescue and some of the Marvel games that are out. Looks-wise, Marvel Avengers Alliance might be able to take it. The Marvel Future Fight one's good, but I think the Marvel Avengers Alliance helmet is better than any of the others. Fun-wise, probably have to say Marvel Future Fight. And total kit, that's a tough one. I could say Marvel Future Fight because that's probably where the most fun is. But the most useful kit out of all the games, I probably have to say it'll be Marvel Avengers Alliance. Her Marvel Strike Force kit is close. It's very... Actually, wait a minute. I think her Marvel Strike Force kit might really come dangerously close to ripping everything off of Marvel Avengers Alliance. Let's just see that. Let's take another look at that real quick. Where'd you go, girl? Wasp. Hey, look, it's ugly, boring Jessica Jones, who's ugly and boring in every single game she's ever in, and she's ugly and boring in Netflix. Alright, so Sonic Repulsor, it's a reasonable tap, and it does a slow. Winded and off balance, reasonable tap, okay, low crit chance. Protector Protocol, shield on herself. Alright, Tech Shield. So that's a shield on all allies. Reconstruction Matrix, heal. So there's negative effects, blah, blah. Okay, so she doesn't heal. Well, she heals through regeneration. Okay. And then status reset, which is the buff one. It's close. It's close. They combined 2, 6, and 9 in her 2 and 3. Yeah, it's... Marvel Strike Force more closely resembles Marvel Avengers Alliance's Rescue more than Marvel Future Fight. And here she's animated as being up in the air with the flaps open and the jet going, and we saw... It's pretty... Yeah. Wow, Marvel Strike Force really comes dangerously close to the Marvel Avengers Alliance one. It's not a straight rip-off, but it's certainly a paraphrase of it. Alright guys, there you go. There's Rescue in some of the games, and let me know which Rescue you're more interested in getting a hold of if you could play all three. Marvel Avengers Alliance, Future Fight, or Strike Force. Let me know. Take care everybody, have a good one.